You are listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Very special guest on the show. I'm a huge Fright Night fan. Ryan is sitting in front of my Fright Night poster signed by Tom Holland, who is also coming on the podcast to talk about horror. But today, we have a great guest. I mean, you know him from Fright Night. I mean...
being married to Susan Sarandon once.
well,
among other things.
That's true. Princess Bride. I mean, look, he's done so much work. I mean, he was nominated for an Oscar. We're going to get that. We're going to get into all that. Chris Sarandon is here, but don't go just yet. Don't fast forward just yet. Ryan, you have a good week?
I did. I did a comedy roast over the weekend for
How was that?
Someone's birthday. He wanted to get roasted for his birthday.
Did you roast him good?
I did, and then he had to roast everyone else on the panel. It was fun. I did a little roast song.
Did someone roast you?
Oh, I got roasted.
You got hurt? Hammered?
Oh, yeah, in ways I didn't think possible.
Oh, really?
And also in ways I thought possible.
Do you get upset when people roast you?
No. I mean, it's all in the good spirit of it. I mean,
Yeah.
I got everyone. Everyone else got me. I think a good one was I look like someone tried to draw Walter Jr. from Breaking Bad from scratch.
I could see that.
Yeah. But they said
Walter Jr.
It looked like a rough
You guys
draft
call
of
him
that.
Walter Jr. I could see that. That's amazing.
I've heard that a lot before.
That's amazing. I could totally see that. I never thought that until just now.
Uh-huh.
I was at James Gunn's wedding. James Gunn and Jennifer Holland. They got married, and I was one of the people who introduced them. And it was the best wedding I've ever been to in my life. I've never seen such a beautiful wedding ever, and great people there. I knew many of the people that were there, so it was really nice. And Jen got up at the end and gave a beautiful, heartfelt speech. Everybody was in tears, just beautiful. And she said, and thank you to Sarah Sanderson and to Michael Rosenbaum for introducing us. But when she said my name, all the guys from the bachelor party just went, boo, boo. And it was just, everybody looked at me and I was like, what the f-? It was like, well, Rosenbaum, you're the first person to ever get booed at a wedding. But it was a treat. I don't do great with altitude, but I survived it. And it was glorious. I just went and visited my grandmother. She's 94. She lives in a assisted living home, sort of an assisted. It's really nice, actually. And she likes it, which is most important. But, at the end, when they dropped me off at the hotel, it was last night.
Mm-hmm.
And she just touched my face and she just said, my boy, I love you so much, Michael. Don't ever forget that. And it was just like one of those moments where I'm like, is this the last time I'm going to see her? I hope not. But I know that time is coming. So it made me think, just tell people you love them. Just be present. It's like, again, being in the moment, not waiting till it's too late. Of course, my grandmother would have known I loved her anyway. But and then today I just got off a plane, so I'm a little out of it. Took a little nap, was with Blanche. She just brightens my day. It's so weird. I'm like a parent because parents show look at my child. Isn't he the cutest? I constantly now show pictures of Blanche, not my grandma, Blanche, my dog. And people they're like, oh, great. I mean, I constantly do it. Is that weird?
Yeah.
It is weird.
Well, like the way you treat your dog like a child?
No, that I show everyone pictures of my dog constantly.
I mean, that's kind of the same thing. But, I mean.
I guess so.
But she's a cute pup. I don't blame you.
She is. She's an angel. Hug the ones dearest to you, folks. I've been meditating. I hope you've been taking care of yourself. Ryan, you've been going to therapy still?
Yep.
BetterHelping?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Great. I like that. And obviously, we know BetterHelp's a sponsor, and they're awesome. They've been with me. I want to just take a second to say thank you, BetterHelp. Thank you for being a sponsor and staying with us. And I think a lot of times we talk about mental health and our well-being, and BetterHelp's just a perfect fit. And I think that's why they stick around, and that's why it works. It's a nice relationship. So thank you. Our socials, please follow us and write a review if you like the podcast. It helps substantially. Our handles are at Inside of You Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, at Inside of You Pod on the Twitter. We look forward to reading your review, and hopefully you'll follow us and see what we're up to. If you want any merch, go to the Inside of You online store. We got great new stuff and great new stuff coming. Autographed scripts, lunch boxes from Smallville that they're selling out. You got to get this Smallville lunchbox. They're pretty badass. Tumblers, other great stuff. Inside of You online store. And if you want to become a patron, the patrons really save this show. They also save Talkville. They're really, you guys, without you, I've told you this before. I just talked to the patrons on YouTube Live. We do that every month. And I always thank them, but I hope they know that I'm sincere. Go to patreon.com/insideofyou to support the podcast. There's different tiers, different things that I send to you, personal notes, yada, yada, yada. Thank you guys. And also I'll be in San Francisco, Columbus, and Pittsburgh at the end of November and into December. So try to come see me. And I'm also on the Cameo and all that jazz. That's it. That's really all I got. We should probably get into this. Is there anything else I need to say?
No, let's get into it.
Let's get into the legendary. I love this guy. I really do love him. I'm going to go on his talking podcast. He's starting a podcast about eating, foods. And so he wants me to be on the show. So
nice.
Let's get inside of Chris Sarandon. It's my point of view. You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum was not recorded in front of a live studio audience. Hey, Chris, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Just had a birthday, which was a seminal one. Thank you, by the way, for your birthday greeting. And it was both shocking on the one hand and also very kind of freeing and revelatory in a lot of ways.
Really? I mean, I can't. Yeah. I look at you. I never look at you and see 80 years old. There's just no way.
What can I tell you?
I just turned 50 and I'm freaking out. I think I'm having a midlife crisis. Did you have a midlife crisis when you turned 50?
Oddly enough, I along the way on those kind of signpost birthdays, the 30, 40, 50, 60, it didn't really hit me. This one really hit me.
It did.
Yeah.
How so?
Major.
How so?
Well, because, you think, just as you said to me, you don't look 80. Well, that's the juxtaposition of how you look and feel to a certain extent. And also what your chronological age is to the world is, this is like a major, he's on his way out kind of birthday.
Really, that's how you feel? Because
no, I don't feel that way. I'm saying that's the way the world sees it, and so right. you can't help but pick up on the cultural attachments of certain ages.
Right. So you're telling me you don't feel 80?
No. Whatever 80 is supposed to feel like, I don't. No.
How do you feel?
I feel. I have what my wife wonderfully calls I play the organ recital with my friends who are my age or younger, a little younger. The organ recital being, I've got that. I had herniations in my disc, and let's see, I have a hip. You can go on and on when you get to be a certain age where you've had so many things happen in your life, but you've also had so many wonderful things, incredible things happen along the way.
Right. I look, and how many people could say they've been in so many big movies that everyone knows? Like, I know that I'm the biggest Fright Night fan, but like The Princess Bride and Child's Play and Nightmare Before Christmas and Dog Day Afternoon, and like it goes on and on. And it's cool to have such a legacy, to have so much work that you've done that so many people out there have appreciated and love you for.
I'm really proud of it, and at the same time, I'm sometimes aghast and kind of, whoa, wait a minute, this happened to me. I remember it. I remember it happening.
Right.
But the cultural, the waves that go out in the culture from particular pieces of work, it's astonishing to me just how much resonance they have with people. Yeah,
I met you at a convention, one of these Comic-Cons.
Yeah, you and I met at a convention. That's right.
And first of all, I was just so amazed by how, because when I watch you in all these roles, I'm like, God, he's so charming. I wonder how he is in real life. And you were incredibly charming and so easy to talk to and laid back. It's like, you don't seem affected. Have you always been like that? Were you ever a pompous Chris Sarandon?
At one point, actually, I think I was. This happened, I think, after I was nominated for an Academy Award for Dog Day Afternoon, right?
Yes.
And then I was offered a lot of movies. I turned down a bunch of movies, but I did a few. And I was doing TV. I was doing like Hallmark Hall of Fame stuff. And I was doing, I played Jesus, for God's sake.
Yeah.
and I also played Sidney Carton and Charles Darnay in the Tale of Two Cities. And I was really fucking full of myself. and I got a script called Fright Night. Right? An offer to do this movie. And I said to myself, as I picked up and looked at the title of it on the cover page, I can't do a movie called Fright Night. I'm a terribly important actor. Right. And so, but these people, they offered me the role, and you owe them the courtesy of reading it. And I started reading it, and within like 5 minutes, I was completely sucked in. And by the time I finished the script, I said, I have to do this. I got to meet these people. And it taught me a lesson, which is, the old bromide, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a screenplay by its title.
Right.
And also art comes in many forms. And I've always considered that when I first started in the theater.
Yes.
And have continued to do theater throughout my career. And that keeps you grounded because you are in a medium that forces you to collaborate with people in a totally different way than it does in the movies and in television. As in television and movies, very often you are part of the machine.
Yes.
And the machine is inexorable. It just moves with you or without you. Whereas in the theater, you are really integral to the performance of this particular moment in time, and you do it live, which is an astonishing thing.
Yeah.
To stand before an audience and be somebody else and have that kind of level of communication. And this is sort of a long-winded answer to your question.
I love it. Please keep them long-winded.
But I from the very beginning, when I graduated from theater school, if you want to call it that, I got a master's degree in theater, a performing degree. And from the time I graduated, all I wanted to do was to have a career. And I've had a career. Yeah. So and along the way, different shit happens. You do a play, you go on tour, you travel, or you're at home for a long time. I have a story that I tell all the time about one of my children who was at the time, I think she was like 5 or 6, and she and a friend were having a pizza or an ice cream or something with the friend's mom, and they were talking about what their daddies did. And the woman went to talk to her daughter. She said, "You know what Daddy does, don't you?" And her daughter said, "Yeah, he makes wires in houses." That's this woman says, "That's right. He's an electrician." And she turned to my daughter and she said, "You know what your daddy does, don't you?" And my daughter Alexis said, "Yeah, he looks for work." Well, that's the experience of being an actor.
Yes,
and that also keeps you humble,
right?
And the fact that you have to audition for people and that you're rejected constantly, no matter what level you're at. You read stories all the time, I'm sure, about famous actors who had to fight for a role and didn't get it.
Right.
At the height of their fame.
Yeah.
So, you can't take it too terribly seriously. If you do, you won't have a very good time being an actor.
Were you a popular kid in high school growing up? Were you always the good-looking athlete, or did you get into theater in high school? And I also want to know what your upbringing was. How were your parents? Because they worked in restaurants, right?
My dad and his brother, but my dad owned a restaurant in a coal mining town in West Virginia called Beckley, West Virginia. And so I grew up playing a role in a way because I was the son of Greek immigrant. I was a first generation American. In fact, when my parents would take me places where they would get together with other Greeks, because there were no Greeks in my hometown, they would parade me up to people and say, okay, tell them what you are. And I would say, I'm 100% American and full-blooded Greek. And that was the dichotomy of my growing up in this town. And that is that my parents spoke Greek at home. We ate Greek. We lived that way. All my relatives were Greek. But when I went to school, I had to be somebody else. And so the answer to the question is I was popular, but I was popular because I set out to be popular, because I knew that if I didn't, that I would be perhaps, at least this was in my imagination, that I'd be ostracized in some way because I was different. So I played that role for a long time. And in fact, all the way through college, not all the way, but like halfway through college, I was in politics. Wow. At my university, at Western University. I was on, I was the coordinator of homecoming weekend. I was in the sophomore honorary because I made good grades. I was a coordinator of leadership conference. I was going to be the student body president.
So you were confident. You had a lot of confidence.
Well, under that under that patina of confidence was insecurity of I'll be discovered if I don't keep playing this role.
Wow.
And it wasn't until I first appeared on a stage with a sizable audience that I went, oh, here I can pretend and it's accepted, and I don't have to make excuses for it to myself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Inside of You is brought to you by Helix. If you've had 8 back surgeries or any back surgeries or your back just hurts, you might want to listen to this ad. I have gone through the ringer, Ryan, with massage chairs and mattresses and devices. And really, the most important thing is sleep. It's your bed. It's what you do. I don't know what percentage of your life, but a large percentage of your life you spend sleeping. Hopefully you're not awake throughout the night. But until I found Helix, I was struggling a little bit. I was waking up in the middle of the night. I was, I couldn't get comfortable, and I went through a lot of mattresses. I've talked about mattresses before, and some are good, some are fine, but these guys really know how to make a mattress. And what I like about them, Helix, is that you take a quiz. They want to get to know how you are, so they could tell you what bed's right for you. So Helix Sleep has a quiz that takes 2 minutes to complete, matches your body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. Why would you buy a mattress made for someone else? With Helix, you're getting a mattress that you know will be perfect for the way you sleep.
Everybody's unique, and Helix knows that. So they have several different mattress models to choose from. They have soft, medium,
that's for me,
and firm mattresses. Mattresses great for cooling you down if you sleep hot, and even a Helix Plus mattress for plus size sleepers.
Yeah, I took the quiz and I'm a medium. I'm not, I've said it before, but like the porridge, right in the middle is just right for me. I don't want something too hard because then, you're too soft. It's been awesome getting messages from you guys telling me what you think of Helix Sleep and how much it's helping you. So I appreciate that. It's nice to see. Look, if you're looking for a mattress, just take this quiz. Order the mattress that's matched to you, and the mattress comes right to your door, shipped for free. You don't ever need to go to a mattress store again. Thank the Lord. Helix is awesome, but you don't need to take my word for it. Helix was awarded the #1 best overall mattress pick of 2020 by GQ and Wired magazine. Just go to Helix, Helix, helixsleep.com/inside. Take their 2-minute sleep quiz, and they'll match you to a customized mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life. They have a 10-year warranty, so if you don't like it, you try it out for 100 nights, risk-free. They'll even pick it up for you if you don't like it, but you will. Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/inside. That's helixsleep.com/inside for up to $200 off and 2 free pillows. Inside of You is brought to you by Magic Spoon. I think this is the kind of product that people have been waiting for. I've talked about this ad nauseum. I learned that big word in college. But I think most adults miss those days where they could just eat cereal. You don't see a lot of adults eating cereal anymore. And I think it's because they're not as good as they were. Or if they're eating the same cereals they were when they're older, their cholesterol's sky high. It's bad for their heart. It's very sugary. It's just not good for them. So what do? Once we get to a certain age, we're like, oh, that's not good. And that's a shame. It's like me. It's like I'll just stop going on roller coasters because I'm older. The hell with that, man. Magic Spoon is the cereal for you if you're an adult or anyone craving cereal that you don't want something that's too sugary or unhealthy. Cereal that's good for you doesn't have to suck. It just needs a little magic. It's time to try Magic Spoon cereal, the cereal that tastes good and is good for you. Magic Spoon has replicated your favorite childhood cereals to taste good and be good for you. Each serving contains 0 grams of sugar, over 13 grams of protein, and less than 5 grams of net carbs, Ryan.
Wow. It's a low-carb, keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, and soy-free way to relive those moments watching your favorite cartoons. Plus, it's only 140 calories a serving. It's like there's magic in every spoonful.
With over 8 unique flavors, you're not going to get bored of feeling good with Magic Spoon. My favorite has to be, peanut butter. I like the cocoa. I like the frosted. I can't say the names of the cereals that I think of back then, but this is delicious. But they have so many flavors: cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry muffin, maple, waffle, honey nut, cookies and cream, cinnamon roll. It's just extraordinary. Head to magicspoon.com/IOU, grab a custom bundle of cereal, and try the magic for yourself. And be sure to use our promo code IOU at checkout to save $5 off your order. And Magic Spoon is so confident, Ryan, in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. What cereal does that? If you don't like it for any reason, Ryan, they'll refund the money.
Wow. No
questions asked. Who does that? People who are confident in their product.
Yep.
Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/IOU and use the code IOU to save $5 off. And thank you, Magic Spoon, for sponsoring this episode. Did you deal with any anxiety growing up, being that you felt like you had to cover up, like you had this false bravado? I have to prove that I'm somebody else.
Absolutely, all the time. That was my constant struggle when I was growing up. Plus there was friction at home. My dad was an old-fashioned Greek, and my mom was a very lively, much younger bride. He was psychologically abusive, and she had lots of psychosomatic problems because of it. And it's a complicated story. I'm actually writing a memoir, and I'll get into that more.
Oh, wow.
Perhaps if anybody listening reads it someday,
please.
They'll see. But yeah, I was. I think that's one of the reasons why I ultimately became an actor.
I think me too. I think that there was so much. I talked about this recently, but the chaos that was going on in my house, it just did. I actually became. I would stay at my friend's house, and their parents would sort of be my parents. I would spend weeks there or nights there, and I just didn't really want to be home all the time. And it was just kind of crazy. And I didn't think it really affected me as a child. But when you get older, you start to have certain issues and things start to come out, and you realize, wow, I was anxious. I was living in I was under a lot of stress, and I didn't realize it. And that's how you felt?
Yeah. I didn't realize it either until later.
How much later?
The first time I went into therapy.
When was that?
Oh gosh, that was when my first marriage was breaking up, and I was completely kind of gobsmacked by it, and didn't, totally unexpected. I didn't understand what was going on, and so I needed to talk to somebody, and I went to see this actually a terrific therapist. And a lot of this stuff started to kind of bubble to the surface. And that's when I started talking about it. And I'm still talking about it. I'm talking about it with you.
Yeah.
Right now.
It's freeing, isn't it? When you start to let these things out or start to understand what may have caused these issues or cause a certain way you act. and act
Yep.
out and say things and like, why am I doing this? And wow, I sound like my father. I sound like, you're a product of your own environment. So having to deal with it's also very tough. I'm sure it was pretty emotional for you.
Oh, tremendously. But out of crisis comes understanding and a certain kind of peace with whatever it was that happened that was the catalyst for the crisis, and if you haven't been through it, then if you haven't been through any crises in your life, first of all, I don't know anybody who hasn't.
Yeah, I don't know anyone.
Yeah. So we're all kind of brothers and sisters in that regard, that we all have that in common. Humanity does.
Right.
Some of us recognize it, some of us don't. But I think one of the things about being an actor is that it says to people, look, do you see something of yourself in this situation or in this character? And that's the great gift that we're able to share with people.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of my things, the things that came out were ego, a lot of ego things. I was upset by things because maybe they didn't go my way or I wasn't in control. You talked about your first marriage. Was that something that wasn't your choice, that you didn't want a divorce?
At the time, no. But in retrospect, it was the best thing that could have happened for me at that time, because it made me look at some things that I'd never looked at before, that I'd taken for granted.
Right.
Ways that I dealt with other people, with women in particular, which kind of mirrored my relationship with my mom, if you get into the kind of the therapeutic part of it.
Right.
So it was revelatory. I didn't necessarily completely learn my lesson the first time.
Yeah.
So I had to get married. I had to get married again.
Right.
And ended up happily for a time, and also having children, which was really important to me. And I have 3 kids now, and I have 9 grandchildren.
Wow.
My children are grown up, and I have this passel of grandchildren that are just the delight of my life. And then that marriage ended in a kind of crisis situation that was actually, the catalyst was financial trouble. That time, and now I'm married for more than 25 years, but together with my wife Joanna for over 30 years. We're together 30 years.
That's amazing.
And we have a wonderful life. We have these grandchildren. So all of that, if my first marriage hadn't ended, this life that I'm living now wouldn't have existed.
Isn't that something? So when something bad happens, you have to know that you're going to learn from it, and hopefully something good from it that's meant to be, if you believe in all that, is going to happen.
Yeah.
And your first wife was Susan Sarandon, obviously.
Correct.
And I didn't know that till I read about it.
Yeah.
And she took your name, right?
She did. Yeah. And she still owes me.
Do you guys even talk, or was it?
We haven't talked in a long time, although we do stay in touch occasionally, because I had a very strong relationship. She's one of a number of children. She's the oldest of 8 or 9. I can't remember now how many, but I had a relationship with all of her siblings when she and I were married. And so and her parents, whom I knew well. And actually her mom ended up being a friend of my mom's post. Wow. This is like, maybe 15 years ago, because they lived in the same town and they ended up connecting. But no, we're not in sort of constant touch. I think one of the reasons probably is we didn't have children together.
Right.
Whereas my ex, Lisa, and I have 3 kids together, and we're still, we have Thanksgiving together.
Wow.
She and her husband come down with their kids because they've had a couple of kids since Lisa and I divorced, and we all get together and we hang out, and she and my Joanna are good friends. You don't hear that very often. It sounds to me like, even with the first marriage with Susan, it sounds like there's really no ill will. You've let bygones be bygones. You've sort of, that's rare.
Usually
No,
I hear horror stories in Hollywood that they hate each other, they don't talk. I could tell you about my parents haven't talked in over 20 years. They wouldn't want to see each other. It's not fun.
No, it was very, very amicable. In fact, Susan and I used the same lawyer for our divorce.
Really?
We went to one person as a kind of arbitrator, and he kind of worked things out for us financially. And post the separation, she went to the Oscars with me when I was nominated.
What?
She was my date. Yeah,
that's remarkable.
Yeah, it was very. She was great. She is great. She's a remarkable woman.
Yeah, that's pretty special. I mean, were you one of those actors who, once you started doing theater, and you hear this a lot, where that's all I want to do? I'm a theater actor. I'm an actor. I don't want to do movies. Or were you always sort of thinking ahead of the game, like, hey, hopefully this leads me to? What was your dream? What were you thinking?
I think the latter. I think that there was a hope that I'd have a career in all the mediums, particularly in movies, because I've been a movie lover since I was young. And have only become more so as I've gotten older. And I have a veneration, a kind of worship for the history of film, or as it was called at the time when I'm the biggest fan of the 30s, 40s, 50s, but mostly, that golden age of the 30s and 40s.
Right.
Of motion pictures.
Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp. I don't know what we do without BetterHelp. I have been lately dealing with a lot of anxiety, and what happens is I hyper focus on all these negative things, Ryan, that keep spiraling, and I can't, it's hard to focus. And it exhausts me and gives me anxiety. And these thoughts kind of and I know I shouldn't be thinking all these things. And it's like my mind, I can't put it to rest a lot of times. And, it can be tough to train your brain to stay in problem solving mode. And, especially when you're facing challenges in life. And I know that therapy helps that. Talking to someone and having them talk to you objectively about what works, trained professionals, helps. It just does. Doing it on my own isn't working. It's just not working. If I don't have someone to talk to, I will just continue to spiral. There's no way out. That's how I feel. Do you feel that way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have to talk to somebody.
People always say, well, how'd you get into therapy? It's because I just couldn't solve these problems on my own. I couldn't, you could say you're going to do these things, and you're saying, what happens is you just bottle stuff up, folks. We just bottle things up until it becomes very toxic. And our body feels it physiologically. We feel the effects of, pain, depression, anxiety, and it takes a toll on your mind and your body. And that is why I got into therapy. And I'll tell you, a lot of times I have nothing to talk about. And for the first 5 minutes, I'm like, why am I here? What am I doing? And by the end of it, I'm like, thank God I'm talking to somebody. My Lord. Look, if you're thinking of giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. Ryan here does BetterHelp. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey and switch therapists any time. A lot of times people are selling things and there's ads you have to read. To me, this is the easiest read ever because it's just something I could talk about forever. And look, BetterHelp is a great place. It's a place to help a lot of people. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/inside today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/inside. Inside of You is brought to you by Geico. Geico asks, how would you love a chance to save some money on insurance? Well, of course you would. After all, who doesn't love a great deal, right? And when it comes to great rates on insurance for all the things in your life, Geico can help. Like with insurance for your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and RV. Even help with homeowners, condo, or renters coverage. You could save even more with a special discount when you bundle your coverages. Plus, add the easy-to-use Geico mobile app, available 24-hour roadside assistance, and more. And choosing to switch to Geico becomes an easy choice. Switch today and see all the ways you could save with great rates and discounts. It's easy. Simply go to geico.com to get a rate quote or contact your local agent and get started seeing how much you could save. Who were your influences? Who were the actors that you admired, that you wanted to, I don't know if emulate's the right word, but sort of like wanted to say, I want to be someone like that?
When I first started, it was Olivier. It was Laurence Olivier, who was a theater actor, but who worked in films and who was a character actor, even though he was a leading man. And I knew that I didn't look like a character actor, but I felt like one because I had a facility with accents. I had a great ear, so I'm really good with accents. I have a facility of observation and of curiosity. And I've always thought of myself as a character actor, never as a leading man.
What accents can you do? But I know you could do the English accent really well, but like what other ones can you easily just jump into?
Well, I can do lots of accents of people who don't speak English as a first language. Right. I have a great Italian accent because I was in a play where I had to be an Italian haberdasher, a man who sold great, wonderful clothes. All right?
It's amazing.
Also, obviously, I do I can do my father.
Let's do the father. We got to hear the father.
My father he had very strong Greek accent, and he was a quiet man. My father.
Can you do Scottish?
Oh, that's one that I won't even attempt because it's not very good. My Scottish
It's
accent.
not good, but wow.
I used to do a great North Country accent because I did a play in England. I did a North Country play when I was much younger. I don't remember it terribly well, so I'm not going to embarrass myself here. But I just always, and of course, New York, you gotta have that one, in your pocket.
Yeah.
And Chicago, I played a cop, a Chicago cop.
You still got it. I mean, it's like
child play. Yeah.
Wow.
But that to me, that was what was attractive about Olivier, is because he changed. He was a chameleon. As I got older, I started appreciating more the people who worked a little more organically than Olivier did. He always said it was he had to create the outside and then the inside came.
Right.
I started learning that the inside's more important, and the outside you can always. You can always paint with colors on the outside, but the inside has to come from some experience.
Right. What about when you're first transitioning from theater to TV? Didn't you do a soap opera for a while?
Oh, yeah. That was my first job when I got to New York. I got a soap opera almost right away. I mean, it was unheard of.
You auditioned and immediately got it.
I got it. But of course, I played the guy who was scrubbing in the pre-op as the lead actors came through on their way to the operating room.
Awesome.
And basically my line was, "Good morning, doctor." That was my line.
But didn't you become a regular?
No, I was I was guaranteed an episode and a half a week for $275 an episode. So I made like $350 a week, which paid my rent.
Wow.
And my rent was only $250 or something like that in a 1-bedroom apartment in New York, if you can believe it. And then I got a Broadway show, The Rothschilds. And, I was in that for almost a year. And then I started doing theater again. And then I was replaced somebody else I replaced Raul Julia in a Broadway musical.
Wow.
I'd never done a musical before.
So you were getting a lot of attention in the Broadway scene. Your name was getting known.
I was starting to anyway. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then Dog Day happened.
How did Dog Day happen? I mean, did you obviously audition for it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Who'd you audition for?
Sidney Lumet, the director,
Right.
and Al Pacino, and the producers Marty Elfond and Marty Bregman. Marty Bregman was Al's
Yes.
manager, I think, at the time.
Were you nervous in the room?
Well, you know,
It's such a cool character who's kind of like the nerves get to him anyway, in a way.
Well, actually, it's interesting because I don't know about you, and you tell me, when you read something that really fits and you understand it and you know what you're doing, then the nerves are there, but it's not about, oh my God, I'm going to fuck this up. It's more about, oh man, I have to ride this.
Right.
I have to ride this at the moment. I have to feel that I have to really get into this right now. And the nerves help.
Yeah.
They don't help when you're unsure.
Now, do you do anything to prepare before you go into a room? When you're about to go into a room, is there something you do, any kind of practice that you have, any breathing, or do you just go? You don't think about it?
If I'm prepared, I basically just go. Yeah, it doesn't really, I don't think it necessarily, I mean, you know, I got advice one time, a long time ago when I was a young actor, of just think of them, when you walk in the room, think of them sitting on a toilet. Everybody you're auditioning for. That's the common denominator. We all have to take a dump at some point in our lives, right?
Yes.
And they're not, you know, there's nothing extra special about these people. But for the Dog Day audition, it was really interesting because, first of all, it was a great script.
Yeah.
It won an Academy Award. It was nominated for 8 Academy Awards, I think, and it won for Best Screenplay. Frank Pearson.
Right.
Right. And I immediately understood this character. And I think part of that was understanding the otherness of somebody who is, his body is foreign to him.
Yeah.
And in my case, my psyche was kind of foreign. I was this Greek American, 100% American, full-blooded Greek. And so I understood Leon Shermer is the name of the guy in the movie.
Yeah.
And I just got it. And so I went in very prepared.
Did you read with Al? Did you read with Al?
I read with Al. Yeah. Yeah. We read the telephone scene. Right?
The telephone scene. I love that scene because you're holding your buttons on your shirt or something. You're like,
that comes from I stole that from a photograph of the guy being led out of the police car and his clutching his robe around him to maintain his privacy, you know.
Yeah, I just thought it was like a nervous, cool little tick that you were doing.
I stole it.
Did you, let me ask you, when you finish this audition and you just read with Al, did you get any sort of affirmation or any kind of like,
it was obvious that it was going well. And Sidney Lumet came over to me and he gave me the best note I think probably I've ever gotten from a director.
What was it?
He said, because I was playing it very sort of Blanche Dubois, right?
Right.
And Sidney said, a little less Blanche Dubois, a little more Queen's Housewife when you come back.
Wow.
And that was the note that went, oh, okay. All right, now I know how to locate this guy. And also that he's not this elevated queen. He was a queen's housewife.
Wow. And you knew exactly what he wanted at that
So
moment.
the next time I came in, I read with Al and I did, I was talking,
Wow, that is so cool. I could just see the room. I mean, did you know after that, the next time you read, was there something that made you go, I got this fucking thing?
Yeah.
What was it?
Just that there was a real sort of palpable sense of everybody being genuinely, we really liked that. That was great. And you don't often have that in an audition because people always play it so cool.
Yeah. But you let it all out there. You're like, this is the role. This is the part. And I think there's something to be said about when you audition and you get the part, you know that that's what they want. But when you get an offer for a movie, and I've had some, a few offers here and there, and TV offers. Yeah. But you get there and you're like, what part of me do they want here? You're unsure of yourself, and then if they don't want it, it's almost like an audition. Believe it or not, even though I hate auditioning, is better. How do you feel about that?
I don't know that auditioning is necessarily better. Well, yeah, maybe if the circumstances are like the one that I just described, but you don't often have that kind of experience. I mean, especially early in my career when I'd go into auditions, I felt, totally disoriented. I didn't know what the hell was going on. And after a while, you kind of get the feel for what it's like to go in a room and impress people, quote unquote, impress. And the best way to do that is to be prepared and to know the character.
Right.
And always the most disastrous auditions are the ones where I don't know who this person is.
Yeah. Or you don't know the material, or you don't know the material well enough.
Yeah. Or I don't really have a line into who this person is.
This was your first audition for a film at this point? Or no, was this the first role you got? First film role?
It was the first role I got. I don't remember. I probably auditioned for things before that. I don't remember, quite frankly. It's been so long.
Yeah.
But this was definitely the first big role I got. A big role, not really a big role.
Were you surprised when you got nominated for an Academy Award for it?
I was grateful. I wasn't totally surprised because I was getting a lot of positive feedback when the movie came out that it was that it had an impact,
right.
Particularly the phone scene,
right,
with Al, and a lot of that, oddly enough, despite the fact that it was a great script, a lot of that scene was improvised around the original writing of the scene. That is, Al and I, Sidney Lumet always rehearsed his movies. Yeah. And this one, Dog Day rehearsed for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Wow.
Like a play. There were the furniture was taped out on the floor. There were props. And Al and I were sitting and reading the phone scene the first time. And we were reading it through together, and we both had the same reaction, which was my wife, who's a wonderful, amazing acting teacher. She calls putting a hat on a hat. When something's already there, when the situation is melodramatic, you don't need to play melodrama. The writing doesn't have to be melodramatic. The situation takes care of that.
Right.
And in the original writing of that scene, it was high drama immediately, calling each other names, pissed off, because their relationship in real life, these two guys, was highly volatile.
Right.
Crazy shit that went on between these guys, right? And ultimately they got married in a church wedding, and Leon was, full bride regalia. I have a photo of that, by the way, which is quite... I have a story about that too.
Oh, you might have to send that. You might have to send that.
All right. And so we both thought, you don't have to start the scene at DEFCON 1. The scene should start with, 2 people who haven't seen each other in a while, and what's going on? How you doing? Basically. I don't know. And then you start kind of, because they've known each other for years. It's not like this is a new event for them, speaking on the phone. But then the melodrama sort of evolves in the scene. And Al and I started riffing on what it might be like if we started it differently. And then he said, wait. And he got somebody with a tape recorder. And so we recorded one with the information that was in Frank Pearson's scene, but we kind of redid it, just reshuffled it a bit, right? And when we finished, Sidney said, okay, here, this is missing. We need this information, so and so. And then we did another improv, and they recorded that one. And then we did like maybe 2 or 3 more. And then all of us got together, as I recall, in Marty Bregman's office one evening, and we looked through all the scripts and we collated them into one. And that's the scene that's in the movie.
Wow. That never happens. Rarely happens.
Never.
Are you to this day, when's the last time you talked to Al Pacino?
I run into him occasionally. Last time I saw him, I think I was leaving a restaurant, and I think he was arriving, and we stood and chatted for a few minutes. And in fact, I wrote him a letter recently, about 3 or 4 months ago, asking him to do my podcast. And he demurred because he was very busy, but he wrote me a nice note back, and we kind of exchanged information more than anything.
Do you keep in touch with any actors from any of the movies that you've done? Like really keep in touch? You do. You become friends with a lot of people.
It depends on the circumstances of the movie. I mean, I'm sure you've had this experience too, where if the experience isn't great, then you probably end up staying away from those people.
Have you had those where you don't like working with someone?
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that?
And I won't speak ill of the dead.
No,
that's all I'll say.
Right. But it wasn't a good experience.
Oh, man. Oh, God.
They put you through hell.
Oh, Jesus. But the Fright Night people, we're all still friends. I'm in touch with them, maybe a couple of times a month. John Stark and Tom Holland and Amanda Burris and Bill Ragsdale. But whenever we do a convention where the movie is featured, we get together and we sit and we talk and we eat and we laugh a lot. We laugh a lot. Carrie Elwes and I stay in touch from Princess Bride.
Wow.
Very much. Every once in a while, I'll share a text with Rob Reiner. But Carrie and I are very close friends.
Did you have any idea? I mean, I know you liked the script and it drew you to, take the part in Fright Night as Jerry Dandridge. But did you, while you were filming, did you say there's something special here? There's something different here?
I thought so, absolutely.
You felt that.
Script was great, and also Tom knew exactly how he wanted to shoot the movie. He described it to me when we first met. He went through it, so literally scene by scene, shot by shot. He described the whole movie to me. I love Tom
Holland. I love that man. I played tennis with him. I've been to his house.
He's an extraordinary guy.
Well, he obviously loved you because he brought you in the Child's Play as well.
Yeah. Tom fought for me on that movie.
Really?
The studio didn't want me, and the producers. And Tom basically said, if I'm going to do this movie, and I'm going to do it with him.
Yeah. I think, you have this knack for, you play some of these characters that are, evil or dark, but you bring something to it that makes them so likable, which is very difficult to do. But it makes the characters more likable and the believability when you're doing Fright Night. That's one of the things that I loved is all the actors really committed, and it wasn't this farce.
Yeah.
It was like when you had Roddy McDowall and everybody took their part and ran with it. And you played this villainous character, and yet you were so likable and charismatic. And is that something that they just offered you the role, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you come up with all these things, or did Tom give you a lot of direction?
We had a really nice collaboration in the making of the movie, and I have to credit Tom tremendously for both accepting my ideas and also offering me stuff that made the character particularly more seductive, because that was an important element in the character. The fact that you have to believe that these the victims are willingly going to this guy.
Right.
And part of that is the fact that he has this kind of seductive charisma.
Yeah.
Where he's very, very charming and likable when you meet him on a human level.
Yeah.
Right. And then there was stuff like, the kind of leitmotif of Jerry Dandridge eating the fruit.
The apple.
People I've talked about this a lot, but how do you create a background for a character who's not human? So you have to, you have to come up with some ideas. And one of the ideas I had was, let me check out vampire bats and see if there's anything there. And I discovered that the majority, something like 90% of the bats that live in nature are fruit bats. So I thought, well, what if there's a little fruit bat DNA in Jerry Dandridge that he craves fruit? So Tom loved the idea, and we worked it in, and out of that came that great thing that he does cinematically, where Charlie is sitting in the bushes spying on Jerry, and Jerry walks out of the house and he's eating an apple, and he takes a bite out of it, and he knows Charlie's there, and he throws the apple toward where Charlie's hiding.
Yeah.
And the apple rolls up, and you see this grotesque bite that's come out of the apple that's not human. That's Tom taking my idea and turning it into something that's just, a coup de whatever you want to call it.
Well, I have the poster right here. You're so cool, Brewster. Tom Holland. He signed my Fright Night poster. It's right across from you. You can't see it. But lastly, about Fright Night, Roddy McDowell. I mean, what can you say? I mean, are there any special stories you haven't told or that you remember little moments that you're like, wow, this guy's great?
I just remember Roddy being so accessible and also being such a font of Hollywood history. And to me, that's, mother's milk. I love those stories, the stories about the people he worked with. And he also, over the years that I got to know Roddy, he included us in his life. And it so happened that my wife Joanna and he did a play together on the road, so she knew him really well.
Wow!
So we would go to his house and have dinner with folks. We never had dinner with Elizabeth Taylor, but I held out the possibility at some point that we would.
Who's the most famous person you've had dinner with, besides Al Pacino? You've probably eaten with Al.
Yeah, I've eaten with Al. Golly. Sean Connery.
Sean Connery.
Yeah, I did a movie with Sean in Spain.
How was he?
Oh, he was so great, Sean. Very down-to-earth Scotsman, this salt of the earth kind of guy who also was a very, very conscientious actor and would love to run scenes and rehearse and do the work. Sean didn't just show up. He knew what he was doing.
So
he didn't just depend on that amazing Sean Connery charisma. He was also somebody who worked hard at it.
What do you talk to Sean Connery about at dinner?
Oh, everything.
What did he want to talk about?
Well, he wanted to talk about golf. Which wasn't very interesting to me, but we talked about the theater. We talked about acting. We talked about movies. We talked about, we also had the cast of that movie. There's a movie called Cuba, which has kind of disappeared. It was directed by Richard Lester, who directed A Hard Day's Night and Help.
Oh, wow.
And The Three Musketeers, the earlier Three Musketeers. And Richard was a very interesting guy who didn't like making movies. He loved editing movies, but he didn't like making them. So there was so we talked a lot about Richard and our difficulties with Richard, who was a charming, lovely man, but not fun in terms of actually working.
Did you get Did you get offered? By the way, did you get offered Princess Bride? Was that an offer?
No, I auditioned.
You did?
Yeah, I auditioned for Rob Reiner and Bill Goldman.
How many times?
William Goldman. Once.
Yeah. Did you have the English accent?
Oh yeah.
You poured it on.
Oh yeah. Just with a paintbrush and a bucket and whatever I could. Absolutely. No, it was a fun audition because it was at William Goldman's apartment on Central Park West, and I was on my way to the audition, and I remember I took a bus uptown, and I had the New York Daily News, I think it was, and on the back page was as always, the sports section. I'm a big sports fan, and I was pissed off because the Knicks had drafted a guy that I thought was a disaster, right?
Right.
And so I'm holding this paper, and for some reason, I knew the scene. I knew it, I knew what I was doing. I felt confident. And I walked in, and they both, Rob is he's just such a mensch.
Yeah.
And, he came up and he shook my hand. How you doing? Nice to meet you. How's it going? I love your acting, a wonderful career. And Bill Goldman, who is a little shy, and I said, to be honest, I'm in a really kind of bad mood because the New York Knicks just drafted Kenny Walker. And Bill Goldman immediately perked up because he's a huge Knicks fan, right? And he and I started talking about this trade. Well, I mean, this draft choice. And we talked for maybe 15 minutes. We were going on and on about the Knicks and how they'd fuck things up and that and that. And finally, Rob interrupted us and he said, excuse me, can I interrupt you guys? Would you mind reading, Chris?" And I
Oh,
said,
my
"No,
God.
of course not." And I read the scene, and after I finished, not after I finished, just the sort of penultimate line in the scene, Rob started laughing hilariously, and he's a great audience. It's one of his, great talents.
Right.
And after it was over, he said, that was perfect. That was just fucking fabulous. That was just great. And I realized that I played the scene very seriously because comedy's a serious business.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
the tone that I established in the scene was just what he was looking for, and that's what did it.
so you didn't play it up at all. Do you remember the scene? Do you remember what?
Yeah. It's where Humperdinck says to her, "I hope you'll consider me as an alternative to suicide," because she talks about how Buttercup is going to, throw herself off a parapet or something. I can't remember exactly what her line was, and Humperdinck looks at her very sincerely because he can sell it. This guy, he knows how to sell it, and he says sincerely, totally sincerely, I hope you'll consider me as an alternative to suicide." You can't play that line humorously, just as you can't, I've got my country's 500th anniversary to plan, my wife to murder, Gilder to frame for it, I'm swamped. You can't do that with, you can't consider what's the comic timing.
Right.
You have to know what Humperdinck is after at that moment in his life.
Was there a lot of direction during the movie? Did he have direction for you, or did you, for the most part, were doing your own thing?
I think that one of the things that Rob does really well is he trusts casting. He trusts his actors. He believes strongly in casting the right people. And except for a few things, I would get some direction for Rob, and I would say, okay, and I would try it that way. And then he'd say, okay, now try it your way. And sometimes he'd take my take, and sometimes he'd take his. But that's a joy to have that kind of director.
Absolutely.
There's a moment at the end of the movie where Wesley says that they're confronting each other, and the audience knows that Wesley is severely compromised, right? And Humperdinck is about to engage him in swordplay, and he's the world's greatest swordsman, except for, of course, Wesley and Indigo, and Wesley says, Humperdinck says to him something like, I know that you're compromised. I know that you're not. Are you bluffing? And he says, drop that sword, and he sticks his sword out, and Humperdinck drops the sword and goes and sits down, right? The coward beneath the facade comes out. And just as a natural thing, because of the costume, I took the tail of the costume and tucked it under me as I sat down. And Rob came over to me and thought, I think that's a little over the top. Can you not do that this time? And we did it the other way. And then he said, let's do it again and do it your way. And that's the take he kept.
Really?
Yeah. And it's funny, but it's situational funny.
Right.
It's not,
Again, one of these movies where you're doing it, you're like, this is special. Again, did you feel that with this one?
We knew that this was a great script. We all loved the script. I'd read the book like 20 years before, and I just flipped over the book. And we all knew that it was a great script. The casting was just, out of this world. And Rob's take on it was obviously exactly the right tone all the way through. It's the same. I mean, it's actually similar in Fright Night, in that you have fun with the genre, but you don't make fun of it.
Right.
You don't look at the audience and wink and say, we're having fun with this, aren't we, folks? You play it totally straight.
Right. That will kill it. The other way will kill it.
Yeah. And so we knew that all that was in place. He had the best art director. He had the best, the top of the line British period costume woman, Phyllis. I forgot Phyllis's last name now. The makeup people were wonderful. The DP was like one of the top DPs in England, Adrian Biddle, and but at the same time, as William Goldman said in his great book about Hollywood, he said the quote that everybody quotes is nobody in Hollywood, nobody knows anything. Right?
Yes.
In this case, Rob knew exactly what he had. What was problematic was the marketing of the movie, because nobody knew how to pigeonhole it.
Right.
Was it a romance? Was it a comedy? Was it an adventure? Was it a thrill? What was it? And so when the movie first came out, the marketing was awful.
Right.
It was terrible. And so the movie did a sort of, moderate amount of business, but over time, people discovered it and discovered what the tone of the movie was. And it's become this multi-generational phenomenon. It's, it's extraordinary what happened. But there's no way to know that that's going to happen.
No.
No way.
Is that a character you think that if someone asked you to revisit it, you could just jump into it today?
Oh, absolutely.
You could just jump into it.
Absolutely. We did it. We did the reading. We did the reading for Wisconsin Democrats, and we made something like $5 million.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I got to listen to it. Where can I listen to that?
Oh, I'm sure it's online somewhere. The Princess Bride reading with with the whole cast except for obviously Andre, who had passed away.
How was he? How was Andre?
A cutie pie.
Really?
Just the loveliest guy, and also the interesting, smart, and prodigious in so many ways. He was really he was an extraordinary human being, Andre.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
When you had to audition for Jack Skellington, The Nightmare Before Christmas, right? You auditioned for that?
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a gift that keeps on giving.
Oh, boy.
I mean,
here's the luck in my life. Yeah, exactly.
And that was you just auditioned. You obviously, Tim Burton just heard your voice. You didn't meet him, right?
Yes, and they had already done Danny Elfman's songs, so they knew what kind of voice they were looking for the speaking part of Jack Skellington. And I guess, again, serendipity that I had a vocal timbre that matched Danny's singing, and that's it.
Do you do anything with your voice? Could you jump into it? Do you have a line you could say?
Eureka! Eureka! Hello, it's Jack.
Did you have to read twice or one audition and they're like, this is a guy?
I just read once.
And what was Tim Burton like?
Tim, I think people who know the movie know he didn't direct it, that Henry Selick directed it. Wonderful stop motion action animated director. And then I got together with Tim after for ADR. For looping, because he was not satisfied with some of the line readings, and I was not satisfied with some of my own work. And so I took some notes and I went in, and Tim was very open about, you want to make a change here, you want to try this, you want to try that. He was great. He was really, and still is. I mean, whenever I see him, he's, open arms, and he's a lovely guy.
So you're 80 years old. You don't feel 80. It's just a number.
You have to keep reminding me.
I have to keep reminding you. But what else do you think you want to do? Are you someone who are like, I've done enough, which obviously anybody who looks at your body of work's going, he's done enough. He can do whatever he wants now. Or do you still love to work? Do you still love doing it?
I don't love acting I shouldn't say I don't love acting. I don't love what goes into it as much as I used to. Because it's exhausting.
Yeah,
it's a hard job. I'm not complaining because all those years I've done it, I've enjoyed every moment, with the exception of one movie.
One movie, which you can't say.
Huh?
Which you can't say.
No, well, I can say, sure, The Sentinel.
That's one movie you didn't like.
From the beginning until the end.
What was about that?
The director.
Really?
Michael Winter, who was again, speaking ill of the dead, but I spoke ill of him when he was alive.
You just didn't like him. You didn't get along.
He was a
A dick.
He was a dick. Yeah. I mean, he did things on that film that were unforgivable with members of the some of the extras. And some of the things he would say. He was a negative human being. He was. It
was one of those movies where you're like, "Wow, he's making me hate acting for this movie."
Yeah,
I literally
quit for a while. I literally didn't know what to do. I was so disillusioned. I ended up going to Africa. I said, I'm getting out of the country. I gotta completely wash my system of this, and hopefully I'll feel refreshed when I come back. And I ultimately did. But boy, I almost, and the reason was because I did it for all the wrong reasons. I did it for money. I did it for the fact that I was becoming a movie star and a leading man, and I thought, well, this is the next step. I'm going to become even a bigger movie star. And so I did it for all the wrong reasons. It had nothing to do with the work. It had nothing to do with the material. And so I learned my lesson.
Wow.
Never did it again.
How long did it take you before you got back to acting?
Oh, God, 6 months at least. I was gone. It took me a week or two to figure out how to get out of the country and where to go. I talked to some people who'd been to Africa, and I went to Kenya and Tanzania by myself, and I drove around for 2 weeks, just driving through, game reserves and.
What year was this?
Oh God, I'd have to look it up.
Were you married at the time?
No.
You
no,
weren't, so that's why you had the freedom. I
was separated. Yeah. I was by then I had separated. Susan and I had separated.
Right. Man. But you learned a lot from it. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. If it hadn't been for that movie, I'd have kept going on that path.
Right.
And would have been a very unhappy guy ultimately.
This is called Shit Talking with Chris Sarandon. These are my top tier patrons. This is rapid fire. If you want to become a patron, you get to ask some questions. Go to patreon.com/inside of you. I love you.
Oh, cool.
I'll email you back. They're great. They're amazing. And they have some questions. So this is rapid fire. If you want, if you feel like elaborating, you certainly can.
Yeah, sure.
Michelle K, you've sort of talked about this a little bit, but maybe there's a story you could share. Any fun behind the scenes stories you can share on the filming of Princess Bride, or at least one.
Walking through the halls of an old medieval castle that we shot in called Haddon Hall, and as I'm heading toward shooting a scene, suddenly I hear Rob Reiner, Chris Guest, and Mandy Patinkin singing doo-wop.
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 Did you sing with them?
Sadly, no. No, one of the only regret I have from that shoot.
We already asked this. Emily S. said, do you have any good memories from working on the set with Andre the Giant? You already mentioned that. I mean, he was a gem.
Yeah, Andre was actually, I never worked specifically with Andre, but I got to be around him a lot, and he was just, he was a fabulous guy. In fact, I do have a great story about Andre.
Say it.
My daughters at the time were 3.5 and 2. And I'm heading to England, and I had to be on location. So they didn't come with me in the beginning because we were in a hotel up in the Derbyshire somewhere, and so I said, okay, I'm going to England, and I'm going to be, and there's a princess in the movie, and I'm assuming they're going to go, oh really, and nothing. And then there's a sword fight, and then there's a giant, and as soon as the word giant got out of my lips, both of my girls perked up, and they started peppering me with the question, what's the giant like, Daddy? How big is he? Is he as big as a house? Is he as big as a car? Is he really, really big? Could he pick you up and squash you? Just kids, right? So every time, now I'm on location, every time I talk to them, as soon as I say, hi, kitties, hi, baby, how are you? Daddy loves you, he misses you. Hi, Daddy, where's the giant? Is he as big as a house? Is he as big as a car? Same thing, right? So finally they come to England, and I realize they have to meet Andre. So I go to Andre and I say, can the kids say, yeah, sure, boss. So one day he's working when I'm not working, the scene where he rescues Mandy, Indigo, he's the Brute Squad, right? And we go to his trailer. His trailer is as big as a boxcar because he couldn't get into the makeup trailer. And he's sitting down at the end, right? And I'm holding one of my kids, and my ex-wife is holding the other, and we walk up the steps and turn the corner, and we look down the length of the makeup trailer, and Andre gets up. And suddenly, the reality hits my girls, and they start screaming at the top of their lungs. Ah! But in this, high-pitched thing that little girls can do, that can shatter your nerves.
They freaked out.
They wouldn't stop. And so I take them away, and I go back to apologize to Andre, and I say, Andre, I'm so sorry. And he said, don't worry, boss. They either run to me or they run away from me. And that was his experience, because he was the most famous person in the world, almost. Yeah.
Wow, I would have loved to meet.
But he
Andre
handled
Turner.
it beautifully.
Oh, that is amazing. Sheila G
Yeah.
just says favorite memory from working on Nightmare Before Christmas. Do you have any famous favorite memories?
The first time I walked into the studio in San Francisco where we were shooting, and the storyboards were on the walls, and I got to look at the sets and watch those extraordinary artists who actually did the stop motion.
Do you have a lot of toys? Do you have a lot of Jack Skellington toys at the house?
I have 4 or 5 of the original heads, Jack heads, because there were 400 of them. Wow! And I have the chalkboard, which is, I'm looking at it now in my office. It's over at the other side of the room, that Jack writes on when he's trying to figure out the formula for Christmas.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you keep anything else from other sets? Anything else?
I used to keep flags. I have Prince Humperdinck's flag. I played Abe Lincoln a couple of times on PBS. I have a couple of old Union flags from that time. I can't remember the other ones I have, but I used to keep stuff like that. But I don't have a lot of stuff. No.
Right. So wait, did you say you wanted to start? You're starting a podcast?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what's it called? Do you know what's it going to be?
It's called Cooking by Heart. I grew up in a restaurant, so I'm talking to friends of mine, and hopefully you and I will have this conversation at some point.
Yeah.
And we talk about how we grew up around food, what it was like around the dinner table when you were 5 years old, 6 years old, 10, 12, 15, whatever. And the stories that come out are extraordinary. You wouldn't believe some of the stuff that happens in these conversations.
I don't know if you'd want to talk to me, because my mom used to make a lot of frozen foods.
That's part of what comes out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but also it ends up being about, it's not just about the food, it's about the people and the stories attached to those times in your life.
What's it going to be called? Do you have any idea yet?
Cooking by Heart.
Oh, Cooking by Heart is the title.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
when is that going to be
that's the title.
available?
We're shooting for an early fall launch.
Amazing. And where could they go to find this? I mean, I guess just wherever you get your podcasts.
Wherever you find your favorite podcast. I'm leaving that up to other people.
And are you on social media?
I am.
And what's your Instagram?
My Instagram is the
Chris Sarandon.
I have to look it up.
Look it up. You got to follow this guy. He's a legend. For God's sakes,
Wait a
guys.
minute. It's it's the official Chris Sarandon.
The official Chris
the
Sarandon.
official.
Follow him.
Right.
Carrie always follows him. Many people follow him. He's a delight. This has been a real joy. I love hearing stories. I love hearing, truthfully, I've loved so many of your movies, and
Thank you, Michael.
I love meeting you and getting to know you a little bit better. And I got to know you a lot more today. And I think everyone else will. This has been a real treat. Listen to his new podcast. It's coming out. Follow him on Instagram. The legendary
Chris Sarandon. I have a website as well, chrissarandon.com.
chrissarandon.com. And hey, I really thank you for taking the time.
Oh, please. My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right, I'm gonna keep in touch with you, whether you like it or not.
That's a deal.
All right, fine.
Okay.
I'll see you later. It was just really enjoyable. I wish that he was here in person. He wasn't, but just a wonderful guy. He does not appear to be 80 years old. I couldn't believe. It's amazing how he looks. I hope I look like that. I hope I'm in shape like he is. And then I saw him, after we recorded this, I saw him at a con and just gave me the biggest hug, and it was so sincere and sweet. Chris Sarandon, folks. Legend. Let's do it. Let's do the shout outs. These are the top tier patrons. Go to patreon.com/inside of you. Again, These patrons get their names shouted out at the end of every episode. Some have been here since the beginning, since the inception of this show, or since patrons started, or I started doing it. And couldn't thank you more. Couldn't thank you enough. Here we go. Nancy D, Leah S, Sara V, Little Lisa, Yukiko, Jill E, Brian H, Niko P, Robert B, Jason W, Sophie M, Raj C, Joshua D, Jennifer N, Stacey L, Jamal F, Janelle B, Kimberly E, Mike E, Eldanzsupremo, 99 more, Santiago M, Chad
W,
correct, Leanne P, Janine R, Maya
P,
Maddie
S,
Belinda
N,
Chris,
Sarandon.
no,
I don't know, but H.
Chris H is right, Dave.
Yep. H.
Dave H is right. Sheila
G.
Brad
D.
Ray
H.
yes. Tabitha
T.
Tom
N.
Liliana
A.
Talia
C.
no M Betsy
D.
Chad
D.
L Marion Dan N Big Stevie
W.
Angel
I don't remember.
M Rhiannon
C.
Corey
L.
Corey K Deb Nixon Michelle A Jeremy C Andy T Gavinator David C Ryan's upset with himself John B Brandy D Camille S Joey M Eugene N
Leah.
correct. Nikki G, Corey, Katie B, Patricia, Heather L, Megan T, Mel S, Orlando C, Caroline R, Christine S, Sarah S, Eric H, Shane R, Emma R, Jeremy V, Andrew M, Zatoichi, 77. Hi, Zatoichi. Oracle, Chris R, Karina N, Michelle D, Amanda R, Jen B, Kevin E, Stephanie K, Lena 82, Jor-El, Billy S. You know what's nice is seeing a lot of those names are also patrons
I'm
for
talking.
Talkville, and they haven't left me on the show.
Nice.
You guys haven't left me. You've stuck with me, and I don't know what else to say, but thank you. Thank you so much for sticking around. Until next time, we will see you on the flip side from the Hollywood Hills in California. I am Michael Rosenbaum.
I am Ryan Tails.
We appreciate you. A little wave to the camera, and as always, be good to yourself. Do what you have to do. Try to enjoy this. I was going to say get through the day, but don't get through the day. Enjoy the day. Embrace the day, man. All right. We'll talk to you next week. See you. Ryan?
Bye.
Bye.